call this meeting to order. This is the October 12th, 2022 regular meeting of the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission. Item 1 was called to order. Item 2, seat alternates. We have our 2 alternates joining us this evening. Hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the Planning and Zoning Commission. Each person should fill out the speaker's register prior to the meeting. Presentation should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Discussion by the Commission of any item not on the agenda shall be limited to statements of specific factual information given in response to any inquiry, a recitation of existing policy in response to an inquiry, and/or a proposal to place the item on a future agenda. The presiding officer during the hearing of residents portion of the agenda will call on those persons who have signed up to speak in the order they have registered. Let's see, we just have the one public hearing this evening. So anyway, we'll just proceed here. And first up is Brian Mendez. And please, as you step up to the microphone, give your name and address for the record.
I walked in, I signed my name. I didn't need to sign.
Can't quite hear you, sir. Can't quite hear you.
When I walked in, I signed my name. I didn't necessarily need to sign. So
Oh,
I didn't need to.
okay. No problem. And looks like Carlo Saunders?
Actually, I'm kind of unclear of the rezoning area project, but I'm trying to get clear of it, of where we stand about, like, if we get rezoned, will anything like our mortgage or our property taxes go up, or will we be in a different area code? You know, how would that affect us?
I'm not sure which agenda item is that, sir. The rezoning up north for the...
Rezoning for the project.
Okay.
As for Cypress Point, we have the buffer.
Oh, Cypress Point, okay,
Yes,
and the
we have
property up
buffer.
behind it.
Yeah, we're in the buffer area, so we want to know where we stand in that buffer area, where if we are rezoned, will we be in a different, like, tax bracket, or would anything affect us?
Okay. The answer to your questions are with these people over here.
Okay.
So if you'll just stick around.
Okay.
What's going to happen tonight, I don't know if you folks are familiar, but this is, and you're certainly willing to address us here at Hearing of Residents, but the rezoning up there, up north, up behind Cypress Point, that's a public hearing. So when we get to that, you will have another opportunity. Staff will give a presentation, and then I would expect to hear one from the developer or the applicant, and then we open it up for public comment. So you have another opportunity to express opinions or ask questions. The kind of questions you have, I'm sure these folks after the meeting would be more than happy to, they're more knowledgeable of that stuff than I am.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. All right, item number 4 is the consent agenda. We have a single item, the minutes from the September 28th, 2022 regular meeting. Do we need to pull those for discussion?
No.
Turn your mic on and speak in there.
Make a motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Commissioner McMasters. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second for Commissioner Goldick. There's no discussion on consent agenda. Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. What do we got up here tonight? 6? All right, so 6 ayes, none opposed. That passes. Let me make a note here real quick. All right, and so here we are at item number 5, the public hearing. Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing related to zone change requests and replats within this agenda. The public hearing will be open to receive a report from staff, the applicant, and adjoining property owners affected by the applicant's request, and any other interested persons. Upon completion, the public hearing will be closed. The commission will discuss and consider the application and may request additional information from staff or the applicant if required. After deliberation, the commission is asked to consider and act upon the following requests and make a recommendation to City Council if necessary. So item 5A is PLZC 2022-0092. Hold a public hearing, consider and make a recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 31 acres of land from general business to single-family residential R2. The property, a portion of parcel ID 63998, generally located approximately 1,000 feet to the northwest of Eckert Road and Green Valley Road intersection, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. Ma'am?
Evening, Commissioners. 31 acre zone change request from general business to single-family residential. Samuel Haas, planner. Here is an aerial map, just to get your bearings. The zone change request is outlined in green. To the south is Green Valley Road. To the east is Eckert Road. We also have Cypress Point to the north, and then the Parkland subdivision going into the northeast here. This is the public hearing notice map with the 200-foot buffer. This is the state law requires that for all rezoning changes that we notify people within 200 feet of the rezoning exhibit. So this is just where we mail out notifications. 40 notices were mailed out on September 30th, 2022. At the time of this report, staff has received 5 responses opposed and 1 response in favor. Here's a map of the current comprehensive land use plan. As you can see, the entire area is for single-family residential, and this blue star here is where the zone change is. This is just a zone change exhibit here. As you can see, it is currently general business, and it is being changed to R2, single-family residential. Here's the zoning exhibit, and then comprehensive land use plan compatibility. So these are some dimensional requirements for the single-family residential. You can see the minimum lot size there is going to be 8,400 square feet. The rezone has been reviewed by Engineering, Fire, Planning, and Public Works Department with no objection. Due to the rezoning of general business to single-family residential, staff recommends approval of the 31-acre rezone, as is more in line with the comprehensive land use plan and also more compatible with adjacent residential land uses. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation? And if you would, sir, your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Bert Wellman with KFW Engineers Surveying. Address is 162 West Mill Street, New Braunfels, Texas. Excuse me. So we're presenting this zoning request to essentially provide a diversity of lot and home products in the area. As you can see from the future land use plan, it is designated as single family. Cypress Point and Parklands are kind of the nearest subdivisions in this area. Homestead to the west. Those developments have 50 and 60 foot lots because of their PDD designation. Some 70s also. I know Parklands has some 70-foot lots. But we wanted to just really provide another option for people to buy a different product of home in this area. And so hence the reason for rezoning from general business. A couple of the benefits that we see to the city of Schertz for this development is one, we will have to improve a section of Eckert Road along our frontage. And so we feel like, based on the current condition of that road, any improvement would be beneficial, but this would be improved to city standards. The second main benefit that we're seeing is, in order to develop the property, we're in Schertz's water service area, and we'll have to provide a looped connection for water over to Homestead. So currently, this area on Eckert Road is pretty much served by a single 12-inch main. I think there may be some connections to smaller lines, but we feel like, with development of this, we can make a solid 12-inch loop water connection to Homestead. And so, those are a couple of the benefits that we're seeing to the city for this development. And other than that, I'm the engineer, so I'm not the developer or home builder, so I can answer engineering questions. I can do my best to answer other type of questions that you guys may have, and I'll be available for that. But that's kind of what I wanted to just share with you guys.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, this time I'll open the public input portion. Anyone wishing to address the council, if you for, against, you have an opinion, if you'd like to ask a question, we'll certainly try to find the answers for you. So at this time, anyone wants to address the commission is welcome to step forward. Come on up. All I'd just please your name and address.
My name is Louis Dawkins. My address 536 Scarlet Court, Canyon Lake, Texas. Here on behalf of my mother-in-law, she's here in the crowd, Ruby Schwab. She owns the adjoining property, so we were notified of this. And we just had some questions, so I did speak to Mr. Haas, and he was able to answer some questions again about the 200-foot and those people being notified, so we understand that. But with Homestead moving in, and then the other subdivision, my mother-in-law's property is now all the way to the back. Houses are being built. They're coming in on the other side. The houses would then be built on this side, so she would be surrounded. This property would be surrounded by all three sides by new residential housing going in. So we understand progress. Sometimes it can't be stopped. But one of the questions we have is the water supply, as the gentleman mentioned, how this area is going to get water, where it's coming from, and so we'd like an answer to that. Another question we have is around Schwab Road. It's been a dead end forever. We didn't know if there's any plans with any of this new development to develop Schwab Road all the way through from 35. So that's another question that we would like answered, and well, I'll leave it at that for now.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sit back down, or?
Yes.
Good.
Anyone else?
Donna Sanders, 4507 Pecos Point. Cypress Point is my location. My question is, it's already a business capacity. Why are we converting it from business to residential? I don't understand why is it zoned as a business in the first place when it's a farming location? Did they do business on that land? And so why are they changing it now to that type of established? And I have to agree with the gentleman there, the Schwab Road, that would be an excellent opportunity to open it all the way up. Me and my husband just moved there. We've only been there for 3 years, but we're seeing a lot of new development over on the Green Valley. So what kind of adjustments is that going to make to us, again, in the homeowners? We have a very small homeowners association, so is that going to broaden that opportunity for us there? What kind of property taxes are we going to see? Are we going to see a change in our value of our homes because of the single property that they're going to be putting back there? Are those values going to be overexposed I see in the Homestead area, those houses were going for $250,000 to $600,000. Now it's $400,000 to $700,000. And I don't know what the reasoning is behind that, but if we see an increase in that and the homes that we purchased were less than that, what's the value of those homes going to be, and is that going to cause an issue for us in property taxes? Because I definitely don't want to see an increase in my property taxes, because then that increases, I mean, I understand value, but I don't need my value to go down, but my property taxes to go up. So that's my question about the
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Mr. Sanders, would you come on up?
I'm Teresa Ackerman. I own the property that is in question. I've lived there over 65 years. I've seen a lot of changes. It is open-air ag land zoned with my home as a homestead. I am over 65. My taxes are frozen. There are a lot of people moving to the state of Texas. There's a lot of people moving in this area. I went to school here in Cibolo, 7th, 8th grade, and graduated from Samuel Clemens, was the first graduating class. So I've seen a lot of changes. It is a bittersweet, but I feel that it would be best for the community. There's a lot of changes to be done, a lot of people moving here. It's best for the city. That's all I've got to say.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman. Mr. Sanders, I was going to ask if you'd like to come up and state your questions again, and because what I'm going to ask staff to do after we close the public input is to answer as many of those questions as they can. So,
Well, my question is actually rolling off what my wife just said about our property taxes going up. Our home value, it's, at a standstill, but basically it was, opening up that road of Schwab to go all the way through. Like everybody said, it's at a dead end. You can't go all the way through if you need to go all the way through. But it starts at 35 and it ends at somewhere in between. I'm thinking 75, and then it starts up again coming this way at I-10, and it ends there, and it's just like a dead end. So,
okay.
We just want to know what
All right.
happened with that.
Well, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Nobody? One more time? All right, public part of the hearing is closed. Staff, would you like to try to address some of those questions?
All right, good evening. So a couple of questions, kind of going back just briefly on the public hearing notice, just so everybody's kind of clear on that one. So per state law, right, we have to notify everybody within 200 feet of the proposed zone change. However, the property owners within 200 feet are not included within the actual zone change request, so that zoning, the zoning on their properties does not change. I know we get that question quite frequently. As far as, the property taxes, that is based off of the county appraisal district doing their due diligence, doing their appraisal district duties. So, it could fluctuate. As far as the property is currently zoned general business district right now, as Ms. Ackerman stated, it is currently used as ag land. As far as the general business district zoning, we'd have to go back and look and see exactly when that was zoned. However, the proposed single-family residential R2 is more in line with what the comprehensive land use plan has. I know there was a question on Schwab Road, so it's probably a little difficult to see on here, but the gold line here does identify the extension of Schwab. So it is proposed on the master thoroughfare plan to extend, this is Homestead here, kind of get your bearings. So it is proposed to extend 35 per the master thoroughfare plan all the way down to Green Valley, but that would happen with development. So as development occurs, the extensions of Schwab would occur as well, but it's truly dependent on the development. Did I hit everything, Mr. Outlaw? More questions?
Let's see, they were curious about, the engineer talked about water. They're going to improve the water supply, is that what you said? And that's Schertz, not Green Valley, correct?
That's correct, yes. So, I don't know if I have there's no pointer, is there? Oh. So, as a part of the development of this track, what we've talked with the city on is there's a 12-inch water line that's right here on Eckert Road. And what we would do is we would extend that 12-inch line through the development, and then we would go off-site and tie into Homestead to the water system there, which is also City of Schertz water. And so what that would do is it would essentially provide another looped connection for the city's water system, which is just always better to have a redundant connection opportunities there. So that was what I was referring to.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, commissioners, anyone have any comments, questions before I get started, because you know me.
I'll make a quick comment here to the Sanders family in regards to property values and property taxes. Yes, your taxes are always going to be based on the value of the home. Right now, the prices of homes are actually declining. There's been a decline in sales, in real estate sales over the last 5 months consecutively. We're in a different market now than we were in the last 2 years. But at any time when you receive your tax statement, you can always go to the county and contest those. But they are based on the prices of homes that are selling within your community. So what your value is may not be comparable to what these 70 by 120 lots are in the new community, if they're able to find comparable homes within Cypress Point. So you can always get with the real estate professional to help you with that if you find your taxes have increased tremendously, which has happened over the last 2 years, and they can run that information for you so that you can go contest those with the county. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Yeah, from a business standpoint, that's pretty much a dry, kind of dead area. There's no business out there. And I often wonder about people that live out there. Where do you go for your entertainment and your stores and, go to buy things? There's really no place. There's a lot of general business out there, and businesses don't come in unless there's shoppers and people to take advantage of their business. So one of the good things about development with residential is you're going to get more people, and hopefully at some point in time you're going to get some businesses to come out there and take advantage of that general business zoning. I don't see any big issues with this. The city doesn't go out and build roads just to build roads. They wait for developers to come in and pay for it. And when they build houses on those big 70 by 120 lots, there's part of the cost of building all this infrastructure is going to be built into those homes. So the people living out there, you're going to get more people and more homes, but you're also going to get more infrastructure, which will help you out a lot. We just heard about the water, and there'll be more street and road construction, and so that's going to help out as well. So a little surprised at this development coming in like this, but I don't see any big difficulty, big problems with it. I think it'll work out.
I do have a question or a comment. I actually frequent that area between those back roads. It's kind of a shortcut. Will there be any expansion? I guess this is more of a question to the roads. I know Eckert Road, you said they would be developing, but the only way to get to 35 is through Eckert or through Cypress Point, or you have to cut over Green Valley, which is kind of bumpy and rocky, and it's, it's narrow. but it is a little shortcut that I've used many, many times when there's bad traffic. So I don't know what the roads will, I mean, is there any plan for development of the roads, including Green Valley Road and that little shortcut that goes back behind from Eckert to Green Valley?
Well, as far as the roads go, Emily showed you that dotted yellow line coming down there. That's Schwab Road. Now, that's on the city's master thoroughfare plan. Am I in trouble?
Go ahead,
But,
you're good.
Again, the city's philosophy, they don't typically go out and build entire streets. As you look at this picture, you can see that that's part of Homestead, just north of the dotted line there. And as they build that, they will build that section of Schwab, correct? Or,
As they plat, they'll build the adjacent.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
But we were discussing Homestead a couple of meetings ago, and they fully intended to have access to Schwab Road and have it go all the way out to 35. But their problem is they don't own all that. That's not their property.
That's correct.
So all I can tell you is the city is planning for it. As development occurs, the developers are required to follow the master thoroughfare plan. So eventually, Schwab Road will connect 35 with Green Valley Road. I'm not sure I will even be here to see it, but, and in that way, the city puts more of the road construction cost on the developers rather than on you as taxpayers. As far as the question of why do they want to rezone it from general business to residential, to R2, single-family residential, it's really because that's, if you look around Schertz, that's what the market wants right now, is single-family, they want homes. I can only guess that this is zoned today general business because it's legacy zoning. At some point, if you look along 35, there was a lot of general business. This is pretty far off the interstate, I think. But with general business, what you'd be looking at is Dollar General, even something, it's not in the right place, but you could have something like a Lowe's or, it's commercial development. Whereas now what they're proposing is R2, which are fairly, we don't see a lot of straight zoning anymore. But R2, as you saw, they're 70 by 120. They're fairly large lots by today's, what we're building today. Just my opinion, I think that's a better fit for the area. To have it R2 rather than for it to remain general business or even go to some other zoning. And as Commissioner Goldick, she's a realtor, and we really have no control over property values. It's just, I'm sitting in a almost 35-year-old house that's now worth 3 times what I paid for it. And I don't know why, okay? Other than there are people out there that'll pay that kind of money. But what it's going to do to your property taxes? Well, once the area is developed and their homes are built and sold, they'll go on the tax rolls, and the impact could possibly, that's additional revenue for the city, so they may be able to lower the tax rate. But again, that's all, that's pretty squishy stuff. But the city is going to generate more revenue off the R2 than it would off Ms. Ackerman's farm property right now. Okay. So I hope I tried to address your questions, but if you have others, reach out to staff. If you don't get them tonight, give them a call. They're be more than happy to help you understand what's going on. Okay, commissioners, you have anything else? Anybody else? All right, this is a zoning case, and therefore it's up to us to make a recommendation only. The final decision will be made by City Council. So at some time in the future, this item will also appear on the City Council agenda. If you're interested in, you're certainly, you're always welcome at those meetings, and you can provide your input again. So I will entertain a motion at this time to recommend either approval, denial, but we need to make a recommendation to City Council.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a recommendation to approve PLZ C20220092 as it's written.
I have a motion to recommend approval from Commissioner Goldick. Do I have a second?
Second.
I will give that one to Ms. Brown over here, all right? Okay. All right, so I have a motion and a second to recommend approval to City Council. Any further discussion or questions? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 6 ayes, none opposed, that motion passes. Thank you for your input. Item number 6, items for individual consideration. 6A is PLFP 2022-0162. Consider and act upon a request for approval of a final plat of the Graytown Subdivision Unit 1A, an approximately 23-acre tract of land located approximately 550 feet southwest of the intersection of Graytown Road and Bainig Road, City of Schertz, Bear County. Emily?
Good evening. This is for Graytown Unit 1A final plat. Emily Delgado, Planning Manager. So the subject property for Graytown Unit 1A, the final plat subdivision, is outlined here in green. And then just to get your bearings, kind of moving up, this is Scenic Lake Drive, Bainig, and then Graytown. They are requesting to final plat approximately 23 acres in order to establish 47 single-family residential lots. Per the Graytown PDD, which was approved in November of 2020, the development will consist of 2 lot sizes, 80 by 130 and 100 by 130. The Graytown Unit 1A is comprised mostly of the 80 by 130 lot size. It will also be providing 4.5 acres of open space. That is this area here. It will have 2 access points, one from Albury Park to Graytown Road, so this is Albury and then up to Graytown, and then the other one from Height Cross here to Bainig. It'll be serviced by City of Schertz for water, Sarah, CPS, AT&T, and Spectrum. With the Graytown Unit 1A, it does touch Graytown Road, which per the Master Thoroughfare Plan is a secondary rural arterial, which is a 90 feet right-of-way. It also touches Bainig, which is considered a local street. As a whole, the whole unit is dedicating 0.279 acres of right-of-way. For the portion of Bainig Drive adjacent to Unit 1A, so that is this piece here, they are proposing to do a full local street section, including curb, gutter, and sidewalks. So that's from Graytown, so the green, from Graytown to Height Cross. They're proposing that full local street section. And then for the portion of Bainig Drive, from Height Cross to the end of Unit 1A, so just so we're all clear, this is Height Cross again in Bainig. So for the portion from Height Cross to the end of Unit 2, which is this dashed line behind these 3 lots, they are requesting to do a complete street widening with curb and gutter. As part of the preliminary plat approval, they are requesting a waiver to not construct sidewalks from Height Cross to the terminus of Unit 1A. So again, just that piece that's in the orange associated with Unit 1A. So this piece here, they're requesting to not do sidewalks. And in return, they would be doing that full street improvements for the rest of Bainig from Graytown to Height Cross. Based on the City of Schertz Engineering Department review, staff does support the applicant's request to not comply at the time of platting with the construction of that portion of sidewalk, as it provides a better street section for Bainig from Graytown to Height Cross. This is the memo from engineering. It does go into a little more detail. It was included in the packet as well, just talking about that waiver request letter. The final plat has been reviewed with no objections from Engineering, Planning, Fire, and Public Works, and staff is recommending approval of Graytown Unit 1A final plat with the associated waiver in relation to sidewalks. And Brooke with Pape Dawson, the engineer for this project, is here if there's any questions.
All right, thank you. Commissioners? Comments, questions? All right, the sidewalk waiver. Is it a full out, they're never going to put sidewalks in, or is it a request to delay the installation of sidewalks?
So from my understanding, it would be they would not construct the sidewalks at any point. I can feel Brooke.
Hi, my name is Brooke. I'm with Pape Dawson, 2000 Northwest Loop 410, San Antonio. So just to clarify on the sidewalk issue, we have actually had several discussions with engineering on what's preferred on how we spend basically the required money for improvements along the adjacent roadway networks. And so the subdivision on the other side of Baining is not within city of Schertz. So that section of road would never get improved unless the city came in and did something. So basically what the city encouraged us to do and we agreed to was, rather than build some of the sidewalk, we would take that money and build the full section of Baining, so you get a better roadway section basically through that first intersection in our unit.
Thank you.
Yep.
So basically, we're trading the sidewalks for the full street improvement, knowing that San Antonio, yeah, okay. It sounds like a good trade to me, but, you know, we're struggling right now with parts of the city that don't have sidewalks, and you know, I know it's hard to speak for the future, but is there room for later installation? Is the project designed so that the city can put a sidewalk in? So there's still room for sidewalks, you're just not going to put them in?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to add to that, Brian? No? Okay. Of course, then the trick will be getting the city to do it, but, you know, yeah. I don't know, what do you think, commissioners?
Is Baining Road all in San Antonio or all in Schertz, or half and half?
It's all insured.
Yeah, it's all, the roads in Schertz, and trust me, I've learned that. San Antonio Fire and I went back and forth one night about who owned the road, so. Did you have something else?
No,
okay.
I was going to clarify that it's the subdivision part that
Right.
is not
Yeah. Yeah, the road is ours, the property is in San Antonio. So, yeah, we see that in several places.
So is it cost prohibitive to do both?
Well, the UDC just has requirements on what we're supposed to do, and so the requirement is to do half of the improvements on Baining from basically the center line to our property and nothing more. So we don't have an obligation to do the other side of Baining. That would be adjacent to City of San Antonio. So it's just a cost sharing or cost swapping, I guess, is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, the reality is that because the road is entirely in Schertz, and I think the implication is as development occurs in the San Antonio jurisdiction, they're under no obligation to improve our road. And so basically, the developer is proposing that rather than spend their money on a sidewalk, and I got to think this is a more expensive for them, but, you know, they're proposing they do the entire street curb and gutter in exchange for not having to put in the sidewalks.
That's right. It would be much more expensive
Yeah.
for the city to come in and do the road and curb improvements on the other side of Baining than for you to just build a sidewalk in the future.
So we can insist they comply with the UDC and install sidewalks, and then they're only going to do half, they're only on the hook to do half the street. So it's one of those, give and take. Is the benefit worth, and then the future installation of the sidewalks is would fall upon the city. But, you know, the reverse side of that coin is if they put in the sidewalks and only do half the road, then the other half of that road is going to fall on the city of Schertz eventually. And I remember, you know, Danig Road was dirt for, I mean, it's, you know, things are really, really changing out there. Did you want to chime in there?
I just think that that's better to have the whole road done at once than half the road and a sidewalk.
And who knows, Parks may be able to wrangle a trail grant or something. You never know, right? So, now, just for the benefit of the newcomers, the newest members, this is a final plat, so this is our authority to approve or disapprove or approve with modifications. So this is our decision tonight. Ryan, would you like to add something?
So yeah, maybe one thing to understand, and I think this is something that frankly, as staff has gone through this, that we probably need to find some modifications to the UDC because it's a confusing, cumbersome, problematic process. So just as a reminder, the Planning and Zoning Commission can grant waivers to requirements, so the sidewalk, for example. But council approves development agreements and subdivision improvements agreements for projects, and often those go hand in hand. So in this case, one of the things that I think is maybe sort of, you know, a challenge and difficult to understand is, you're right, everybody looks at it and thinks, yeah, seems like in some ways a pretty good deal. We're getting more street construction and all they're doing is not constructing a sidewalk. Seems like a good deal for the city. And it's probably too good a deal for the city because, yeah, it's much more expensive. The thing to understand that we're working through also involves Scenic Lake Drive with Unit 2. So what really is happening is there is a larger agreement at play where we're looking at, based on what the subdivision ordinance requires them to improve. And again, just as a reminder, the standard is when they come in and plat, they have to construct the portion of their half of the road adjacent to the subdivision plat. So again, you can see the boundary between 1A and 2 here, so it would really be this half of the road here. That's what they're looking to plat. They're not coming in to plat this yet. They're not yet in for approval on this. And so the larger picture is getting the improvements to Bainig are much more important to the city than getting the improvements to Scenic Lake Drive. Doesn't really serve anybody. There isn't development on it. The other problem is noted is this is in city of San Antonio or Converse. I can't recall where or when the swap occurred, but they're not required to improve it. So the bigger picture you need to understand is there's this larger agreement going on that'll be contained in the agreements as we move forward, where essentially, as you can see, what they're looking to do is the full street section up to this point, and then again, it makes sense to come to the intersection with the street, cut down to the half section here, not with the sidewalk, but then again, what's proposed is to not construct the Scenic Lake Drive improvements adjacent to it, and then again, we'll focus on Graytown up here as well. So again, I think it's...
That includes additional improvements on Graytown from this section.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, I think the important thing to understand is what we're really trading in the larger picture, and this is where it's confusing because all we're talking about right now is this plat, is this larger exchange for Graytown to get these improvements up here. The sidewalk is sort of thrown in because to make the deal equalize. And so I think the commissioner's right. One of the problems we have on this is when we do these agreements and we waive these improvements, at some point the city needs to start thinking about when do we have the money, when do we come in and make the improvements. And often, we don't have a lot of money now, we're not necessarily expecting a windfall down the road, but the problem we have with just going with the standard is we immediately have a problem with some substandard sections of road, only half an improvement, a lot of traffic being generated out onto it, and so you know, we try to get at something that's a win-win for everybody, but you're right, it's not without its drawbacks. But again, we think it's a better situation than as soon as these residents start moving in and they complain because the other half of the road isn't in. It'll take a lot longer for folks to start complaining about Scenic Lake Drive, but we'll get it at some point. So hopefully that helps provide a little bit of a clearer picture, but likely one of the ordinance changes we're going to be bringing to you after we kind of get this first batch done is a process whereby we can get the waivers and the agreement approved in one fell swoop. I think it makes it cleaner for everyone because it's real hard for you to understand. You've got one component, council's got the other, and it's this issue with the developer, hey, when do I have final full approval on it going forward? So hopefully that helps.
And a question just occurred to me. So this would be in lieu of roadway impact fees, or they would get...
So I will say, and I cannot remember if Bainig is on the roadway impact fee system. I don't think it is. I know one of the roads is not. I can't remember if Bainig is or isn't. I think Greytown and Bainig is not. Again, I will point out, though, that they have a Benzingelman section that runs through their subdivision. It's not roughly proportional. So they will get roadway impact fee credits for the construction of system roadways they build, the dedication of right-of-way of system roadway that will apply. But I think Bainig is not a system roadway for roadway impact fee credits.
And so if it's not, then we can't use, we could not use roadway impact fees to do it ourselves?
If it's not, then we cannot use roadway impact fees unless we update and amend the roadway impact fee study, which will start next year. Potentially, we might add it, and any funds we collect subsequent to it being added, we could use, but we couldn't use monies collected today.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
I've got a question.
Did we help or confuse? Go ahead, Richard.
Just to clarify, the green section is a complete road and sidewalk system. The gold section is road improvement, but no sidewalk.
So it's street widening, so just the half curb and gutter, and no sidewalks.
On
On the goal.
on their half that
Yes.
they're responsible, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just an oddball situation where our UDC is maybe not lacking, or it's just an oddball situation.
It is, and I will say this, one of the things that we're comfortable doing here, and we'll have a bit more of a challenge on other phases, is we're perfectly fine recommending this waiver without a requirement necessarily for the other. It's just the sidewalk. It's not a huge amount of money. It's a developer who's done business in the community. It's an engineering firm that's done business in the community and will do for a long time. It's a nominal kind of thing. So again, to be clear, staff is perfectly fine saying, yeah, we're willing to waive the requirement. We know there's this bigger deal that'll come to council with the agreement. It's not a bigger issue. When we get to some of the bigger road sections, some of those waivers will be conditioned upon getting the agreement because there's more risk. But in this case, it's just a sidewalk, not the end of the world with it, to be clear.
And who owns Scenic Lake Drive? I'm not sure where the city limits are down there.
So we do, I think we're on both sides.
Scenic Lake goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
City of Schertz.
City of Schertz does. So now I will say this, just to be clear, we've got a development that's pending on a tract a bit over to the west and south. We're doing a similar agreement with them to modify some sections of improvement, same kind of way coming through, so you'll sort of see that. So we have a number of moving parts in the area that staff is trying to track to, again, get the most road in to get the greatest benefit to everybody who's driving on the area.
Anyone else? All right, once again, this is our decision to make this evening. So I'll entertain a motion to either approve or deny PLFP 2022-0162.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion to approve from Commissioner McMaster. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Goldick. Any further discussion or comments?
Do we need to mention the waiver, or is it just included in the, is it included in the whole package?
I think it would help if it was stated that it's the plat with the associated sidewalk waiver.
It's your motion, so if you want to restate it, something to the effect that including
Including the waiver for sidewalks.
okay? Yes, sound good? All right. Let me call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Sometimes we make things harder than they need to be, you know. Anyway, 6 in favor, none opposed, that motion passes. Item 6B, PLFP 2022-0163. Consider and act upon a request for approval of a final plat of the Greytown Subdivision Unit 3A, an approximately 32-acre tract of land located on Greytown Road, roughly 3,000 feet northwest of the intersection of Greytown Road and I-10, City of Schertz, Bear County.
So this is for Greytown Unit 3A, the final plat. Emily Delgado, Planning Manager. So the subject property is outlined in green. So Greytown, this is I-10, Bainig, Scenic Lake. The Unit 1A plat that you all just approved is in this general area. So just to get kind of your bearings of where this unit is compared to the previous, it is for approximately 32 acres and would establish 69 single-family residential lots. Again, as I mentioned previously, the Greytown PDD was approved in November 2020 and does authorize 2 lot sizes, 80 by 130s and 100 by 130s. These are the larger lot sizes. Typically, these are the 100 by 130s. It will have 2 access points, one from Lockton Lane, which connects to Netherfield Park, which connects to Greytown Road. So that is this here. And then we have another connection from Shaftesbury to Greytown Road as well. It'll be served by City of Schertz for Water, Sarah, CPS, AT&T, and Spectrum. It does touch Greytown Road, which again is a secondary rural arterial for 90 feet of right-of-way. It will be providing 0.755 acres of land as right-of-way dedication along Greytown Road and will be completing improvements as well. The final plat is consistent with all applicable requirements set forth in the PDD, UDC requirements, and regulations. The final plat has been reviewed with no objections from Engineering, Planning, Fire, and Public Works, and staff is recommending approval of Greytown Unit 3A as presented.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, comments, questions? No waivers in this one, right? It's all
No
just
waivers on this one.
straightforward, yeah.
Yep.
Again, real quick, I don't want to call it a lesson, but the way plats work, staff, and then they've told you on both of these now that this plat complies with all the city requirements and the UDC and all that kind of stuff. So if we choose to deny or disapprove a plat, we have to be able to point to a specific, something that they missed. State kind of tightened down on those things a session or two ago, to where we really have to you have to be able to articulate your reason. Again, I thought that would be a good time to throw that out there. So, do we have any questions or comments? This is ours again to approve or deny, so if someone would like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented PLFP 20220163.
All right, thank you. Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We got a team going over here tonight. All right. So I have a motion and a second to approve PLFP 2022-0163. Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 6 ayes, none opposed. That motion passes. And thank you for your input, appreciate that, it helps. All right, 6C, PLPP 2022-0168, consider and act upon a request for approval of a preliminary plat of the QT 4033 subdivision, an approximately 7-acre tract of land located northwest of the intersection of IH-35 Access Road and Cibolo Valley Drive, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. You know, I just noticed on the previous two, you say Bexar County, but you left Texas off, so.
I'll work on it, Mr. Outlaw. I'll work on it.
Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So this is for QT 4033, the preliminary plat. Emily Legato, Planning Manager. Subject property outlined in green. So this is 35. Cibolo Valley Drive, the extension of Cibolo Valley Drive. Evo, Santikos, just for your point of reference. The preliminary plat is for approximately 7 acres in order to establish 2 commercial lots. So here is that preliminary plat exhibit showing the 2 lots. Lot 1, Block 1, let me back up. The entire property is currently zoned general business. Lot 1, Block 1, which is this lot here, is 2.660 acres, and in April of this year, there was a specific use permit approved by City Council that does authorize this to be developed as a convenience store with gas pump specifically for a QT. And then Lot 2, Block 1, which is the other piece here, is 3.059 acres. So there is no proposed development on that lot at this time, so just the Lot 1, Block 1 as the QT. And then in addition to the 2 lots, there is a 1.129 acre right-of-way dedication shown here. And that would be for the master thoroughfare plan proposed commercial collector 4 Oaks Lane, which is proposed as a 70-foot wide right-of-way with 42 feet of pavement, 5-foot sidewalks, 5-foot sidewalk on one side, and a 10-foot hike and bike trail on the other. As I mentioned, they are dedicating the right-of-way and would be doing those improvements as well. Since this is on IH-35, TxDOT did review the preliminary plat and provided a letter of no objection. With the caveat, they are allowed 1 access point based off of their frontage. So Lot 1 and Lot 2 will share 1 access point, which is identified here on the plat. And then there is a variable width cross-lot easement here to allow access to the adjacent properties from that shared access point. It will be served by City of Schertz for water, CCMA, CPS, CenterPoint Energy, and AT&T. The preliminary plat has been reviewed with no objections from engineering, planning, fire, and public works, and staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat as presented.
All right, thank you, and thanks for anticipating my SUP question. I appreciate that. So, any comments, questions? QT likes Schertz. I'm not sure why, but they seem to. So. It just, I look at the way they're drawing the boundary lines, and it, you know, just weird shaped lots, and yeah. But I guess they have a reason to do it the way they're doing it. So.
Is the entire lot owned by QT? Or they're, okay.
Yes. The whole piece that you're seeing that's included within the preliminary plat is owned by QT currently.
But no future development in that second one just yet?
Not that we are aware of.
I see you thinking.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how far back will Cibolo Valley Drive go? Just to the end of the property?
So you can see kind of the, hopefully, kind of that goldish orange dash line. Per the master thoroughfare plan, it does extend off of the screen as well. That's the full extension of Cibolo Valley Drive. It does continue forward. I can pull up the full master thoroughfare plan if that would be helpful, but it does extend past the QT property for all of this as well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's another one of those, and council just, it wasn't that long ago that they, it's a little surprise to me, but they approved extending the name of Cibolo Valley Drive across there. I tell you, from a public safety perspective, it's much nicer having one name than trying to split names, but, and it, is the master thoroughfare, this is not relevant to this, but I'm going to ask anyway. It goes all the way to, that'll go all the way to 2252, or is that, of course, you got the railroad tracks in the way, and who knows, but is that the thoroughfare plan? Well, that's not Schertz up there, though, is it? That's Garden Ridge.
But
Yeah.
let's,
It goes halfway to the railroad.
Yeah, never mind, Emily, because the more I think about it, yeah, because then we get out of Schertz and we're in the Garden Ridge, and yeah. But you do saw one coming across the, do you know which one that is? It's coming in across the left corner there?
this one here?
No, the yellow one up there. Vestal,
This one here?
Yeah,
That's
that one right there.
The extension of Red Iron? Right? Right? Red Iron?
I'm sorry, I'm making trouble again. It's just curious.
So the extension of Red Iron, and it looks like Cibolo Valley Drive does go all the way to the, past the railroad tracks.
Okay,
Yeah, so we've got
Again.
Rose Lane, Tri-County,
Yeah, just-
and then another road.
yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Again, it's just curiosity. No, so. And the blue one, is that Four Oaks?
Yes,
Okay.
that is Four Oaks.
Yeah, just looking at their plat the way, anyway, okay. So commissioners, I'm getting everybody sidetracked here. Anybody have any other questions or discussion?
How far is this from their other location?
A mile?
Not that
Another
far, it's
one?
the next exit up.
Yeah, so the other, there's the one on 3009, so, here, let me pull up. This will help.
Isn't it like,
But you know, there's no other gas stations on that side of the road. Coming from, well, there's one at 1103, and then you'd have to get to 3009 to the next one.
So this kind of shows both on one screen. So the existing QT is there. Yeah. Yeah, so there's the one on 3009, there's this proposed on Cibolo Valley Drive, and then there is the one
Up at-
on Schwab.
Yeah, so it's a mile or two between them. And again, you have to just defer that they know what they're doing when, that they're not, when they look at their marketing and, that they know what they're doing, so. All righty, once again, this is ours up for approval or denial. So, oh, don't let me, you do what you want to do, Judy. Don't let me make fun of you.
All right, I'm going to request for approval, PLPP 20220-168 as written.
We're going to have a motion to approve.
A second.
Oh, okay. Another voice. So I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Goldeck and a second from Commissioner Hector. Any further discussion or questions? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 6 ayes, none opposed, that motion passes. 6D, PLDMP 2022-0173, consider and act upon a request for approval of a master development plan for the Heritage Oak subdivision, an approximately 67-acre tract of land generally located southwest of the intersection between Schertz Parkway and Wiederstein Road, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas.
So this is for the Master Development Plan, or the MDP, for the Heritage Oak subdivision. Elena Gatto, Planning Manager. So to get your bearings, the subject property is outlined here in green. It is a unique shape if you're not familiar with the Heritage Oak subdivision. So this is that. This is Schertz Parkway, and then up further north is IH 35. It is a master development plan for 66.05 acres, and it is proposing 214 residential lots. As you can see here, it is currently undeveloped and was previously platted as part of the Live Oak Hills subdivision, which is commonly referred to as like a paper subdivision. There's not installed utilities in that subdivision currently. So this better outlines the Heritage Oaks master plan. So you can see it does have that unique shape and goes around the GVEC substation, which is here. And we'll use that kind of as a point of reference. So that's there. So on May 11th, 2021, City Council did approve the Heritage Oaks neighborhood PDD. There will be one minimum lot size for the proposed PDD, which is a 50 by 120, and that was approved by council. It has access onto Wiederstein Road, which is proposed to be here. So they will be modifying the current location of Wiederstein Road with the MDP, and will now have this kind of curvature pattern instead of the straight that Wiederstein Road is right now. And that will be extended from Schertz Parkway to the Wiederstein Road within City of Selma portion. Additionally, English Oak Drive will provide a connection point from Wiederstein to the lower portion of the Heritage Oaks MDP here. There is additionally a proposed emergency access easement that will connect the southern portion of Unit 1 around the GVC substation back to Wiederstein Road. So that, I'll show it here and then we can zoom in further. But that is proposed to connect from this cul-de-sac here and runs around back to Wiederstein as another emergency access point. Additionally, there are proposed alleyways which provide another means of ingress, egress throughout the subdivision, and you can see those here. And then there's another alleyway here as well. A 10-foot wide hike and bike trail will be constructed along Dietz Creek throughout the entire subdivision, so that is proposed here as well, adjacent to Dietz Creek. All residential lots proposed will front roadways within the subdivision. Roadways will be constructed with curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Alleys will be provided for lots fronting the Wiederstein Road extension and will be designated per the MDP as striped fire lanes with designated areas that are no parking. The proposed master development plan is consistent with all applicable zoning requirements, specifically the Heritage Oaks PDD ordinances and regulations, and the MDP was reviewed by Engineering, Public Works, Fire, and Planning with no objections, so staff is making a recommendation of approval. Both the developer, Mr. Eugenio, and Brian Mendez with Up Engineering, the project engineer, are here if there's any questions.
All right, thank you. Not my favorite project, but you know that, right? Okay. Yeah, Commissioners, this one goes back several new faces since the PDD ran through the gauntlet. As Emily pointed out, it was spring of last year. So it's one of those things where the PDD has been approved. And you'll see this like the one that we recommended this evening, the R2 zoning. That's once they get it rezoned. Now, do they come back in? There'll be a master plan for that one too, not just platting, correct?
So it depends. The MDP is required if it's over 50 acres, is going to be developed in different units or phases. So on the other one, Mrs. Ackerman's property, if they come in and develop it all as one unit, as one phase, they wouldn't be required to go through that MDP. Okay. But since this is being proposed in that 2 units, so you can see this is Unit 1, and the Unit 1 does extend to the southern portion, and then Unit 2 is the remainder portions. So since it's being proposed in 2 units, it has to go through that MDP process.
So I think the intent here, again, and this is our authority. We approve these, correct? They don't go to council?
Correct.
And I think that this is just a step to ensure that they are, I don't know if this is going to come out right, but that they comply with the PDD. The PDD is kind of a, usually they'll show you a concept plan of what they want to do, and so those things, those PDDs get approved with certain. Within them there are certain requirements and restrictions and waivers, and all this is is another step. And there's some flexibility here. It's not ironclad. But anyway, well, let me just throw it out there. And now, this is this step, and they still have to come in and plat it, correct?
That is correct. And then just to keep in mind, since it is an already platted subdivision, where we would typically see a PDD go through the PDD, then the master development plan, and then you'd typically see preliminary plats and final plats. On this one, you will see a replat because it's already platted.
Okay. My concern at that time, well, there's some other things in here, but my primary concern was this half-mile long cul-de-sac that they're building. As Emily pointed out, it's hard to see in the plat, but you know, in that lower part up in the upper left-hand corner, there's you know, they're proposing or they're showing an emergency egress and access that would only be. We have those in other places, and typically they're gated and locked, and they're only there for the fire department to use. And again, part of the problem with this property is when you look at the upper part, there really wasn't very hard because he had a street running through the middle of it, and but because he bought this, what I want to call a flag lot, where and the only access that he has, because the property all around him is not his, so he can't build a street through it, okay? And so we end up with these dilemmas where we have to try to find solutions. So, and I'll address this to you, and I know Brian's over there. Probably the place to really address, my concern is how do we make sure that the vast majority of that emergency access lane is not on his property. So how do we make sure that gets built? That's my big hang-up, okay?
So it'll be a requirement of recording the replat. So until that replat's recorded, just like any other public infrastructure improvements would be required to be installed prior to the recordation. Brian, I don't know if you.
And I'll be honest with you, the reason it's such a concern, guys, is that's not his property.
Yeah, so
It's city property, isn't it?
yeah, so certainly, he still has to come in and get waivers to portions of the subdivision ordinance, and so one of which is the overly long cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
You can condition approval of the overly long cul-de-sac upon constructing an emergency access point through there. So that
Okay.
would be your hammer. And so what would happen is with that condition, the civil drawings for, this phase, whatever phase is beyond that normal length, would have to include, if it's not already been built, that emergency
Okay.
access. So that would be the way you would do it as condition.
All right, but the PDD includes that. It's in the PDD that he will provide that, so do I really need
It's
to?
in there as well. You don't really need to. Technically, though, parts of our code are in the subdivision portion, and I think that's one that's in there. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how you would do it. You would condition the plat upon construction and fine. But I will tell you, applicant is certainly aware of this. They certainly understand they have to do it. They've certainly been working with
All right.
the utility company who owns that land to get the approvals to put it in.
And then we don't quite get to the Selma city limits with this, correct? So I guess my question is, again, doesn't have anything to do with the master plan, but it pops into my head. We're going to end up with that little short stretch of Wiederstein between his subdivision and the Selma, where Selma's improved it at their city limits. Yeah. Okay.
So most of that is over, is the bridge.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Keep in mind, that's really been part of the issue, as the applicant will tell you. One of the issues we've got
And
is
that bridge has already been
the bridge
improved.
only has a certain width.
Yeah,
Someone's
okay.
only improved this. It's how do we neck this thing down? I think we're trying to look much longer term, 20, 30 years down the road, how wide does that road need to be?
Yeah.
Which we think makes a lot of
And I think maybe if I look at the aerial, I wasn't seeing it, but I think you're right.
Well, the bridge belongs to Schertz, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and
So
that's,
Selma's on the other side of the bridge.
and
Yeah,
the
the
bridge is
other side of
already,
the
the bridge has already been widened.
Bridge is
Yeah.
already, bridge is really the neck down that you kind of have, and then you get into Selma, which they have their section. So yeah, I mean, again, you know, when this first is built, it's not hugely problematic, but if you think how our community has grown over 10 years, and you think how we're gonna grow over 10 years, what's that look like? So yeah, at some point, whoever's on P&Z then is probably up here dealing with some of those issues, trying to help find a solution.
And again, as, you know, I had some real concerns with some of the, well, there aren't really waivers, but some of the things they did in the PDD. But, you know, if you look, when I step back and I look at the bigger picture, if you drive down there today and see what's there, this is so much better. I mean, it's such an improvement, and hopefully the trash dumping problem will go away. And, yeah. All right. Anyone else have anything?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
According to our exhibit, that emergency access runs through City of Schertz property. So have we given them the okay to do all that?
Tentatively, yes. So I will say this, a couple things that we've got. The emergency access, part of it runs through City of Schertz property, part of it runs through the utility company property. And we discussed this at the time the zoning went through. So there are a number of different parcels of land throughout this that are owned by the City of Schertz that this sort of relies upon. And so one of the things that we are proposing to do before the planning comes in is run an agreement with City Council to allow us to release some of those areas to be used as part of this development.
And I can't see the utility company objecting to this because they get a nice, easy access where now they're driving through God knows what to get to that access. So I don't, they shouldn't have any disagreement with this, but you never
I'm sure that Mr. Eugenio will tell them that next time they talk, that Schertz P&Z didn't think they would have any issues with any of this, because they get a nice new...
If they do, they need some adjustment, but that's okay.
Only thing harder is trying to deal with some of those CCMA lines that have to be relocated, but you think they'd be happy for that, too?
Absolutely.
Well, and you know, I just have to give Mr. Eugenio, I don't know how he pulled all this together. I tried the simple task of coordinating a major disaster exercise. Randolph wanted to do an off-base crash exercise up in here, and just so many different owners located, they ended up moving it to, we just couldn't get it. And somehow he's managed to pull these properties together, so must be tenacity and persistence, so.
One more question for staff. This is a very complicated exhibit. Are y'all satisfied with all the sidewalks and the pathways and the other stuff?
So same right at the last slide. The departments have reviewed it with no objections. And then as Mr. Outlaw kind of mentioned, this is that next step from the PDD, next step MDP, next step plat. So when the replat comes in, we'll have the construction plans and be able to take a, you know, bigger, deeper dive as well.
I have a quick question. What are the alleyways used for? Will like trash pickup be behind the houses and things like that?
So from my understanding, they're another means of ingress egress. They will be utilized for trash pickup. I don't know if Mr. Eugenio, if you want to speak to the alleyways or Brian.
Well, I think going back to your original concept, weren't the garages on the alleyways and not off, rather than having the driveways on Wiederstein?
Yes, I'm Tony Eugenio. I think one of the objections was the worry of having the driveways on Wiederstein and going and trying to back out, or even designing that. So we designed one alley, the one on the south side, and then they said, we really like that. Can you try to do it on the north side? And we had to work with the drainage, and we had kind of a little park area in that drainage way, and did some squeezing. But no, yes, the alleys are where everyone enters their house.
And,
so
you know, it's,
driving down Wieterstein, you'll just have a couple of sidewalks, and then there'll be the trees and.
now the houses, you know, the front doors, if you will, they'll face Wieterstein. And it's not going to, you know, it's not a high-speed roadway. I'm guessing it might be 20 when they're done, but you know how people drive. So, and, you know, they've put that nice curve in it and everything, so as Mr. Eugenio said, trying to back into that was one of the things the ex-fire marshal wasn't happy about, but, you know, when you look at it, it's, as long as I can, you know, we have full access from the front, and, you know.
There aren't any communities like that in Schertz, are there? I've seen them in Northern Hills, I think, that type of neighborhood.
Yeah.
And even in Windcrest, but I've not seen them in Schertz.
You know, the only alley, yes, down here in Aviation Heights or the older part of Schertz, there are some alleyways, but they're unimproved, and that's primarily where the utility, the gas meters and things like that are back there. But no, typically, this is a little unique, and you know, it makes this development stand out. You know, it makes it a little different than the normal. So.
And Mr. Allen, Mr. Eugenio just wanted me to note that the alleyways are designated as fire lanes as well, so
Yeah.
just another
Yeah,
additional
I know.
added coverage as well.
But I also deal with people parking, and I used to deal with them. Yeah, anyway, it's just. So, you know, once again, it's you know, I tend to get in, and even as the fire marshal, you know, I got hung up on the little stuff, and sometimes you just need to take a breath and step back. And again, this is certainly so much better than what we've got up there today, and I think it'll grow on me after a while. We'll see. Yeah, well, just again, for the new guys, the UDC limits a cul-de-sac to 500 feet. And, but we've made a couple of exceptions other places for, you know, because you have geographical restrictions or topography or things like that that won't, that you just can't do it. With it, you know, you can't meet that requirement. And so typically, you know, they've complied. Because again, the fire department isn't concerned so much. You know, our concern is when you've got a single way in like that it's just real easy, particularly with, you know, we can end up blocking it ourselves just with our own fire apparatus. There's only so much you can squeeze in. Now, I can only recall one time. What's the name? Verde. It's right across from Savannah, and I see it every day, but I can't. It's Verde. Arroyo Verde. That one was approved. That's the only way in and out of that subdivision. But if you go way up in the back, there's an emergency gate, and I think it crosses over into Oak Forest. And that's the only time I can remember we used that one day, because we had Arroyo Verde. We had that blocked with fire apparatus. So the people that lived up, and it was in that first block, so the only way people could get in and out was with that driveway. But again, it's anybody else? Okay, this is for our approval or deny, you know, or approve with. I was telling Commissioner McMaster asked me about that. You know, I'm hung up. I just want to make sure that emergency driveway gets built. You know, it's in the PDD, so I'm not sure we need to really. Of course, it's up to you, but I don't think it's necessary to address it tonight. You know, I think just however you feel, but I think just straight up approval or denial is plenty for the master plan.
You wouldn't do an approval with condition at this point?
No, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
I can't see Brian. Is he nodding his head?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's up to you folks. You know, I don't get to make motions, so.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve. PLD MP 2022-0173, as written.
I'll second that.
All right, the dream team at work again. All righty. So we have a motion and a second to approve PLDMP 2022-0173. Any further questions, discussions? Call the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 6 ayes, none approved. Thank you for sticking with us this evening, okay? And I mean that about pulling all those lots together. I still don't know how you did that, okay?
You're still young. You just have less hair.
Isn't this a project that did start like decades ago?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah.
All right, moving on, item number 7, requests and announcements. Request by commissioners to place items on a future planning and zoning agenda. Anyone have anything? Item B, announcements by commissioners. Anything to share?
I have something to share.
Okay.
So our Schertz Main Street Commons Market kicks off again this Saturday from 9 to 2 on Main Street right there at the corner of Schertz Parkway. So if you guys can drop by, please do. It's actually in the Schertz magazine this month as well.
All righty, thank you. Anybody else? Item C, announcements by city staff. You have anything? Okay. And I don't want to hear about resignations, okay? All right.
You don't have to worry about that. We do have one site plan that was approved that we wanted to share with the commission. So this is for the Homestead City Park. So within the Homestead subdivision, they are dedicating a city park to the city of Schertz. And as part of that, they are building a parking lot. So this is just the site plan for the parking lot. I know not incredibly exciting to look at, but it is exciting in terms of us getting another city park and the associated parking lot. So that was approved recently by staff. That's it.
All right, thank you. Item number 8 is information that, is at the end of your packet. Gives you the new site plan applications and where things stand with City Council. All right, item 9, there being no further business, this meeting's adjourned. What's that? Could be. Megan.
Oh, she leave?
Yes, she did.